You will pay for your insolence.
Insolence! We are pirates! We don't even know what that means!
Star Wars The Clone Wars made a whole host of fantastic new additions to the Star Wars character roster, and one of the best was Hondo Ohnaka. Hondo is best known for being a fantastic meme, but he has another pretty important claim to fame too. He built the Ohnaka Gang, a remarkably well-organized group of space pirates whose arsenal was almost military grade. The Ohnaka Gang is a staple of the Clone Wars, but the show never really dives into its origins. The expanded universe, however, does, and today, so will we. Based on all the sayings he attributes to her, one could reasonably assume that Hondo Ohnaka's mother wasn't the best of people.
As my sweet mother always said, son, if one hostage is good, two are better. And three, well, that's just good business.
And you'd be absolutely right. Both of his parents were scum, Weequay natives of Strelur near Hutt Space. They were poor and they took to scams and thievery, often running afoul of the Hutts who were powerful in that part of the Outer Rim. When Hondo was a child, his parents actually sold him to the Hutts on Boonsa as a slave, supposedly because the god Quay wanted them to. Now, to understand this fully, we need to go into Weequay culture a little bit. Most Weequays were devoted to Quay, a god they associated with one of the planet's moons, and with small spherical totems that most Weequays owned. These Quay totems, in effect, were magic 8-balls. When asked a question, they would provide a short and often vague answer. Most beings would consider such things novelty items, but many Weequay actually believed that the responses the totems gave to questions were messages from Quay. So, in case it wasn't clear, what happened was that Hondo's parents took a magic 8-ball, asked it if they should sell their son into Hutt slavery, interpreted its vague answer as a yes, and then followed through. Understandably, Hondo believed Quay to be bullshit from that point forward, as did all of the Weequays that would end up joining his gang. Slavery shaped Hondo into a self-serving and innately clever child, teaching him to fend for himself and to always seek opportunities from which to profit. He escaped slavery when he was young by stowing away on a transport bound for Boonta, an important Hutt world, where he got a job as a cupbearer for Paula the Hutt. But he quickly proved to be useful as more than a cupbearer. He paid attention to Paula's business deals, especially those he made with the less reputable elements of the galactic economy. When he noticed that some smugglers working for Paula were asking for strange prices and kept getting caught by the Republic, he began whispering him business advice, which the Hutt found to be valuable. Paula then made Hondo his personal advisor on matters of business and granted him wide authority over his operations. This proved to be a mistake, however. Hondo made friends with a number of Paula's Weequay servants, and one day, when he had gained Paula's trust, he and the others broke off on their own. During their escape from Boonsa, Hondo and his new comrades stole a considerable chunk of Paula's defensive arsenal, which included weapons, speeder bikes, and tanks. They settled on Florum, a remote world in the lawless parts of the galaxy rimward of Sith space, and established a stronghold as a base for pirate operations. Hondo quickly established himself as the leader of the group, which became known as the Ohnaka Gang. The Ohnaka Gang had swelled to a respectable size by the time the Clone Wars began, mostly with Weequays, though Bith, Ishitib, Niktos, and Jawas were also noted as having joined. Among Hondo's chief lieutenants were the devious Turk Falso, the hulking Goru, the red-skinned Guam, and the power-hungry Gyro, all of whom were Weequays. Other notable Weequay members of the gang included Finn Tegotash, Pegleg Pit, Parcel, Barb Mentir, Sabo, and Dagu Flask. Ohnaka also owned a few droids, 4A2R and R5P8. But more notable of the members of the Ohnaka Gang was the equipment the gang had at their disposal. They stole or otherwise acquired all manner of blaster weaponry and vibroblades, and they had caches of other weapon types as well, including state-of-the-art rocket launchers. When escaping from Boonsa, Hondo made off with a fleet of Nimbal Starhawk speeder bikes and powerful WL-05 Ubrikian speeder tanks. Hondo also acquired a small flotilla of starships courtesy of surplus arms dealers who failed to sell their craft to the Confederacy. For business operations, the gang used a personal luxury yacht 3000 called the Fortune and Glory, and for piracy and combat operations, they used the Acushnet, a Corona-class armed frigate. The gang also owned a number of Flare Star class attack shuttles, which they used essentially as heavy starfighters. The Ohnaka gang primarily operated in a remote and utterly lawless part of the Rim, but they also ventured much further forward for raiding during the Clone Wars, exploiting the chaos in the galaxy at large to make a profit. While no source says anything of this nature, it's also fairly likely that they also looted some nearby Sith ruins due to Florum's location on the fringes of the ancient Sith Empire, something that Hondo likely would have found quite profitable. At any rate, they also had dealings in the nearby corporate sector and the Tion hegemony, more civilized regions where they could easily get away with things. Hondo and the Ohnaka gang were first noticed by the galaxy at large in early 21 BBY, when they managed to kidnap not only Count Dooku himself, but also Anakin Skywalker and Obi-Wan Kenobi. They attempted to ransom all three to the Republic in exchange for a massive amount of spice, but Hondo's business schemes were thwarted by Turk Falso, who wanted to kill the Republic ambassadors, steal the spice, and then break from the gang. This plan went awry, and both Falso and his sidekick Barb Mensier were killed by Dooku when the Sith Lord escaped. Skywalker and Kenobi parted with Hondo on friendlier terms, leaving him to continue his hijinks in relative peace. The next time they met, however, things didn't go quite as well for Hondo. That next meeting, which this time involved Ahsoka Tano as well, was on Felucia, in a small farming village that Hondo and the gang were trying to bully into giving up a large share of their crops. The Jedi and a team of bounty hunters trained the villagers to defend themselves, and so when the Ohnaka gang ultimately attacked, they encountered far more resistance than they expected, and they retreated. For whatever reason, the Jedi once more decided to just let Hondo and the boys go, allowing for Ahsoka and Hondo to meet again not long after. Hondo was a neutral party in that encounter. Ahsoka, along with Plo Koon, was after Aurra Sing, Bossk, and Boba Fett, would set a trap for them at Hondo's base. Hondo washed his hands of the whole ordeal when the Jedi arrived, and sat back and watched as they captured Bossk and Boba. They also apparently killed Aurra Sing by destroying the Slave One, though as it turns out, she survived. Hondo subsequently repaired and repainted Slave One, which eventually ended up back in Boba's hands. Hondo would do business with the Jedi yet again in early 20 BBY during the climax of the Battle of Onderon. On the request of Anakin Skywalker, who apparently provided ample payment, Hondo personally delivered a cache of rocket launchers to loyalist rebels on Onderon, a move that turned the tide of the whole war. Probably unaware of the fact that he had just changed the fate of an entire system, Hondo beat a hasty retreat from Onderon after the delivery, while the rebels used his rocket launchers to shoot down the Confederacy's new HMP gunships. Despite his good business sense, Hondo Ohnaka never seemed to be able to keep away from the Jedi for long, and so, a mere month after he helped Ahsoka and her rebel allies on Onderon, he attacked a Jedi cruiser carrying Ahsoka and a group of Jedi younglings bound from Ilum. He planned on stealing their lightsaber crystals, which were worth a fortune on the black market, but when that plan fell through, he settled on kidnapping Ahsoka and selling her on the black market instead. The younglings, aided by R2-D2 and the architect droid Huyang, pursued the pirates to Florum to rescue Ahsoka. But the situation changed completely when the Confederacy involved, invading Florum in retaliation for Hondo's capture of Count Dooku about a year earlier. General Grievous and his droid armies took Hondo prisoner and began scrapping his entire arsenal, only for Ahsoka and the younglings to come to the pirates' aid. Grievous pursued them, but Hondo managed to get the Jedi to safety and escape until Grievous and the droids left Florum. When they did, Hondo and the gang reclaimed the ruins of their once great empire of piracy and slowly began to rebuild. The Ohnaka gang's final entry in the history of the Clone Wars came when Darth Maul and Savage Opress tried to wrest control of the pirates from Hondo, a move that led the enraged captain to complain to Obi-Wan Kenobi. Kenobi and Adi Gallia traveled to Florum to deal with Maul and Savage, who by that point had gained the allegiance of a number of the pirates through promises of wealth. Hondo quickly reunited the gang under his banner, and while Adi Gallia was killed by Savage, both brothers were forced to retreat by Kenobi. Together, the Jedi and the pirates drove the two Sith wannabes off Florim, and Hondo ended up with all their stolen wealth. So that's the story of Hondo Ohnaka and his pirate gang, the true libertarians of the Star Wars universe. But what do you think? Are you a fan of everyone's favorite pirate, who for the record has a subreddit dedicated to the memes about him? Check out r/Hondo Ohnaka_memes and then post your thoughts in the comments section below. And as per usual guys, make sure you check out all those links in the description below if you want to join the wider Geetsly's community. Our Roblox is really coming along nicely and our Gmod is thriving. So if you want to join our Geetsly's gaming network, those links are in the description below. And if you want to support the channel more than you already are by watching this video, make sure you check out the Patreon. If you do decide to donate, you get access to a special behind the scenes Discord where you can see how our whole team works. Anyways guys, as always, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in the next video.